Thanks for staying with us. Now, in a time when children spend a lot of time on their gadgets, how important is it for parents to limit screen time? How do we also ensure that children are not watching content that is not age appropriate? And what impact does this have on their mental as well as physical health? Let's speak to Victorine Mbong Shu, who's an involved parenting conversationalist with a master's degree in communications. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I mean, this is an era where parents are so busy and sometimes feel like letting their children spend time on their gadgets kind of eases the pressure while they attend to the daily demands. So what does managing screen time look like now in an era like ours?
Impossible. Good evening to you and good evening to every of our viewers, and thank you for the opportunity. Yes, it's a very beautiful time for parents, and a very, very disturbing one as well. Because like you've rightly said, most of the children spend a lot of time on devices. And mind you, it's not only handheld devices, it's many different devices that range from television, mobile phone, laptops, what have I not said? Mobile devices, let me leave it at that, you know. And yes, it's extremely difficult because most of these children do not even have the self-education on how to limit themselves or how to navigate the so much time that they have in their hands. Just like parents also do not have exposure on how to manage the so much time that the children or so much access that the children have. So there are many different ways which I hope that your questions would then facilitate us responding to the difficulties and challenges that parents have. But there could have been no better timing for this interview than now, when so many schools are also on holidays and parents are really struggling to make ends meet.
And I suppose even at a time as we speak about this, you know, a child is sitting on their gadget, and as a parent, I'm probably thinking this brings me some much needed relief so I can meet my work deadline quickly, or I can prepare supper very, very quickly. But at the same time, I don't know what they're watching. And that, I suppose, is also where the danger is.
Yeah, you are very correct there, my sister. I'll take myself, for example. I'm in a very difficult stage in the parenting journey, and thank you for giving me this platform. I'm parenting 4 adolescents. So my oldest child is 19 and my youngest is 12, and every single one of them have at least one device, and both devices that they have are compelled by the learning institutions for them to have it. So it's not even our choice to give these children these devices. But then this is another challenge. When my children come back home, for instance, they come back to a house where we have a domestic worker who has done all the chores. These children have little or nothing to do after they've done their homework. So talking about the time that they have, how do I then manage the amount of access that they have? And then going to talk about the kind of information that they accessed, I wouldn't tell you that the timing for this information for me is better, because I've just concluded a research on sex communication in families with adolescent children. And in that research, the top content that adolescents access is actually indecent consent, indecent topics, and all geared towards violence, towards sex, and towards misappropriate behaviors.
That is very concerning, and strength to you. I'm parenting 1 adolescent, and it's already a lot of work. I don't know how you do it with 4. And I'm just thinking about this content that they now searching, this violence, this sex and all of that. Where does it emanate from? Are they seeing it somewhere? Is that why they're curious to learn about it? Or why? Why are they searching it? Did you find the reasons?
So actually, a majority of children, especially the children in the younger adolescents, which is between the ages of 10 and 13, 14, these children do not actually search this content. What is happening right now with technology is that they have what they call push, where these contents are being pushed. And I'll give you a very embarrassing situation that happened to me. I sat on my corridor with 2 of my friends and we were having a conversation. conversation. And I said to one of my daughters, bring my phone. And she brought the phone. I opened the phone because we were having a conversation. I wanted to show something to my friend. And when I opened up that, the first thing that came up was sexual content. No. And my daughter was standing right over my phone because she was queuing to use the phone. And lucky for me, because I do give them this education, when she saw that content, she grabbed my phone and she said to me, mommy, I'm going to block your phone. You have access to pornography. But I was extremely embarrassed because this is not content that I wanted to search. It just popped up related to what I was searching for, to show my friends. So this is what many of these children are going through. They get this pop-up content that are linked to sites that they open. And most of them, because they really do not know that it's dangerous content, they do access and enjoy the consumption. Only after doing it multiple times do they now get to understand that they can now search it and it will appear.
What are some of those dangers when it comes to that, particularly on their mental well-being as well as their physical well-being, if they now continue to be clicking onto sites where they're not supposed to even be going to? And in some of these cases, as you say, they're not even intending to go, they're just simply clicking on a link.
Very beautiful question, because most parents focus on addiction. Most adults focus on addiction. Yes, addiction is there. Yes, addiction is possible. But one of the biggest concerns is that of desensitization. These children get desensitized to content that is bigger than them. And when they get to the stage where they actually have to become sensitive to this content, it means nothing to them because they have been overexposed to it and it has become normal to them. So addiction even is becoming slow because many parents are becoming conscious on how to manage addiction, but they have not been conscious on how to manage desensitization in children.
Sure. And when it comes then to, because there's another thing that I sometimes see us as parents do without even thinking about it, is that we call our children, we talk to them, and you're giving them an instruction or another. And they have a cell phone or a device in their hand, and they're not even looking at you. They're simply just engaging with what they're talking about, but you are assuming that they can hear you. And in some cases, parents don't even ask for the child to put that device down. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Extremely bad thing. Not only bad because a child does not follow your instruction, but also bad because it takes away the aspect of engagement and this aspect of respect that comes with engagement, face-to-face look when you speak to a child. But another thing that I should have brought it up before responding to this question is that most often children do what they see parents do. You know, it's extremely difficult in my house for me to call my child, talking to my child, and my child is engaged on a mobile phone, because that is not a culture that they have seen in me. But in other people's houses, it would be easy because that is a culture that they have seen. And I'm not saying my children are not doing that. When they do it, we call them to order, because obviously myself, I would do it where I'm on the phone and I walk into them, or sometimes I walk past, I don't even greet them, and then I come back and I engage them without greeting them. One of the rules that we have in the house is to say, should somebody display such behavior, it is the place of the next person to call them to order. So it doesn't matter whether it's an adult or a child. The children do it to us very frequently because their dad and I, we are very, very, we are self-employed people who are very, very dependent on their mobile devices to work. So at any time, you also don't control what time a call would come in. I mean, an example is the interview I'm having right now at the time that is dinner time in my house, you know. But we have that conversation that goes on. And I'm sure you also know my daughter, Stacey Frew. Stacey Frew is a public figure. So we have those conversations that go on in our house to say, look, when it's such a time, you have to permit the three people that have this, an exemption to this is mom, dad, and Stacey, you know. But it does not mean that they would not explain themselves. So you've got to tell your children the reason why you are doing this so that they have no reason to do it for you or to you.
So I'm hearing you say parents limit your screen time because that also sets another good example for the children. But how else then do we begin to also deal with this? Does it help to have some of the apps that would potentially maybe shut things down when they go to some of the sites that they are not supposed to be going to, or even have a cut-off time in the evening when we say after this time you're not allowed to use your phone until the following day, for example?
Yes, South Africa and Africa in general will have to forgive me for my response to this because I mean, intellectually, theoretically, that is what most people engage in. But in our own house and many other houses, and even when I coach parents, I tell them, look, you can control your children today or their access today. But what happens when they go to the next house? What happens when they are in an environment that is not yours? I am a strong advocate to leave your children be, but educate them. Educate them on how much screen time they should have. Educate them on what is good content and what is not good content. Because the example I gave you earlier of my phone accessing, if we had that limit in my household, my phone wouldn't have accessed. So we leave everything open, but what we do is we educate children. It's extremely important for children to understand that they can manage their own time, that they can manage their own selves, that they can manage what they expose themselves to. And one of the reasons why I came to this conclusion is because about some 8 years ago, when mobile phones were not really a novelty were just new for children particularly, I worked with a parent whom I was coaching, and she said to me, her children do not have phones. But one of her children said to her, Mom, if you care, don't buy me a phone. I consume better content out there through my friends' phones. So it just hit to me, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to change my perspective on not giving children access and advocate to say they should have access, but they should learn, they should be taught how to control the amount of access they have.
So have conversations about the choices that they make. Thank you so much. I'm going to allow you to go back to dinner so you don't get into trouble. Thank you so much for talking to us this evening. Do appreciate it. Certainly something to think about. Really screen time, children, and how, all these different choices have to be made. But certainly an important conversation there. That was Victorine Mbong Shu, Parenting Conversationalist.